In today's video, we're going to be looking at the concerning development that this Christmas could be one of the worst in over 40 years due to the supply chain breakdowns and worker shortages. I'll be explaining all of this in today's video and giving you recommendations on what you need to buy and when, so that you can make sure you don't get caught out by this perfect storm that's emerging. The Christmas festive period is one of the most celebrated in the Western world. It's a time for all of us to come together for peace and reflection, for family and friends to reconnect, to eat great food, but all of this is currently under threat. Last year, Christmas celebrations were not very good for most of us, as most countries were either locked down or had severe restrictions on groups gathering together, so that means, family, friends, etc. But at least last year we could create the illusion of a normal Christmas, as we had our trees and our food and our decorations. But the only thing missing last year was some of the most important to many of us, that is open churches and friends and family to actually share our time with. So we're another year down the line, and everything on the face of it looks normal for this Christmas period. We're seeing all of the promotions, the Christmas promotions starting early for food and gifts and trees and decorations and all the other things. But could this just be somewhat of an illusion? So 2020, you could buy as much as you wanted for Christmas, but you couldn't spend time with family and friends. But this year, it's quite the opposite. You can spend time with family and friends, but you may not be able to get all the things that you would normally get for Christmas. So let's start with the first point then. Why is this occurring? Well, it's, as I mentioned last year, that the knock-on effect would be global supply chain shortages as a result of all the lockdowns. You can't just close businesses and somehow expect that all the products and services will continue to be created out of thin air when there's no workers. No, it doesn't work like that. You need businesses to be open to actually create those products and those services. So if you've been living under a rock or in a cave and you're not aware, supply chain breakdowns have been the worst that I have ever seen. And there's no end in sight. If anything, it's going to get worse. I personally think we're going to see another year of these supply chain breakdowns, especially as the whole COVID thing, I was hoping would have gone away by now, but I knew it wouldn't. It's only seeming to get worse and worse and worse, with the government's announcing all these new variants and people scared. They're locked down at homes. A lot of people locking themselves down at homes. Of course, we have some countries, Australia, with forced lockdowns, and New Zealand as well. And then we come on to the Chinese container factories, which seem to have really slowed down. They're not producing as many containers. We have hundreds and thousands of containers just sat in ports, and we have 10 times that amount in product and stock that can't even get into containers, and even if they could, they can't even get onto ships in the first place. So as businesses have started to reopen, or let's just say they reopened after the initial lockdowns and the pandemic, due to the backlog, this actually pushed up prices massively. I mean, we are talking huge increases in prices. So as businesses, specifically in Asia and China, have come out of the lockdowns now, they've started to reopen their factories again, the price of shipping containers and the shipping industry has just blown out of all proportion. It has gone crazy. So we have thousands of container loads of goods that need to come into the UK, the EU, the USA, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, etc. And they just can't get these freights moving. Now, I talked about this many years ago, that we have too much reliance on China and Asia for all of our goods and services. Getting rid of our jobs, sending them over there, is one of the biggest mistakes I believe that we have made. Globalization works well for bringing wage costs down when you export it, but when you have crises like this, it comes back to backfire on us all. Retailers like Walmart and Amazon this week have been putting out some PR. They're reporting that they have upwards of 200 containers worth of stock sitting in China, but they can't get the containers to actually transport them. So this is the other issue, getting these containers in the first place. They can't do that and are only managing to ship half the volume of stock achieved for previous years for Christmas. So just think about that for a second. Half the normal volume, so 50% of the normal volume of things, items that would come in for Christmas for Amazon and Walmart are not going to be there this year. Well, you might say, well, Neil, I don't shop at Walmart or Amazon anyway, but you would be in the minority. Actually, with the advent of globalization and big tech, a lot of people are now shopping online, Amazon, Walmart online, or they're going into Walmart because of the lower prices versus independent businesses. Now, you know my thought process on this. I much prefer to support independent businesses where the majority of GDP is created, the majority of jobs are created. Now, it's not just the manufacture of containers, the issues with ships, getting the containers onto ships and transporting them. No, there's issues in the Western nations as well at the ports. You're having all sorts of issues at the ports as well. You're having dozens and dozens of ships with thousands or tens of thousands of containers just sat there waiting to actually get into the port. It's madness. In fact, we've got a lot of statistics from the industry experts on shipping at the moment, and they've been saying that a typical container that cost anywhere from $1,500 to $1,700 to get from China to the UK or USA, for example, are now $1,000 to $1,500%, not dollars or pounds more, percent. So if you think about that, that is, $1,500, $1,700. A container is costing as much as $20,000 right now. And some businesses have actually said they've spent $30,000 just on a shipping container to get it over here. I mean, what on earth is going on? And once you start to get to these sort of price levels, a switch comes in. So most people will ship via sea freight because yes, it takes longer, but it's a lot cheaper. But there is another option, and that is to get things in faster, so speed, and that is air freight. But air freight has always been very, very expensive, 10 times more than shipping via sea freight. But now a lot of businesses have seen the tipping point has come in, and they're saying, look, it doesn't matter whether I pay for sea freight or air freight right now, but the variable here is at least I'm going to get it in a lot quicker. So for all these governments obsessed with green energy and climate change and all of that sort of thing, what do they think is going on right now where you're switching from these huge container ships to aeroplanes? I mean, what is that doing for the carbon footprint? It's crazy. So a lot of retailers have resorted to buying up or renting warehouse space, and they've been stocking up well ahead of time because they saw what was coming last year and early this year. So they stocked up. But there's only so much retail space or warehouse space that you can rent or that you can build, because then you've got extra costs with that. And then what do you do after this crisis has gone away in a year or two's time? Then you're left with these big warehouses. So there isn't really a perfect solution here either way. So let's move on to the turkey shortage now then. There are rumors and reports that this year a lot of Brits are going to have to go cold turkey because the supply chain is in absolute crisis. And I do mean crisis in the poultry industry. So I wanted to see for myself, as you know, I don't just like to read things, I like to go and experience them to see if it's true. I went into my local supermarket the other day, and it is true. There was not much poultry. I would say it was only about 20% stocked from what it normally is, and there weren't any turkeys. I didn't see a single turkey, it was mainly chickens, and that's all there was. So there is truth behind this. Of course, KFC and Nando's and all these other big chicken restaurants as well, they are suffering the same thing. In the UK, the poultry industry employs about 40,000 people. That's about average. But right now, they only have about 33,000 workers. So there's 7,000 40,000 workers short. Now, it might not sound a lot, but when you put it in context of 40,000, that is a huge amount of a shortfall. And of course, this is having a knock-on effect to the abattoirs and the butchers and the supply chain and everything else, because they just cannot handle the amount of turkeys and chickens and other poultry that needs to be processed ready for Christmas because they haven't got the workers. But this isn't isolated to just the UK. This exists in most Western nations at the moment to some degree. In the United States, the reports are that this year there will only be around 50% of the normal turkeys available. And this is a big concern because the US doesn't just celebrate Christmas, it also celebrates Thanksgiving, where turkey is eaten at Thanksgiving as well. All of these reports and warnings at the moment are just a constant reminder of how badly the meat industry is under attack at the moment. If it isn't staff shortages, issues with meat, viruses, diseases, then it's cyber attacks, which I've covered in previous videos. If you haven't seen that, make sure to watch that. The cyber attacks that are deliberately targeting the meat industry. It's almost as if, I know it sounds strange, but it's almost as if there is some small group or organization that wants to completely destroy the meat industry. I know, strange, isn't it? Other Christmas food warnings and shortages then across the pond, either way you look at it, there are major warnings everywhere you look at the moment. I've got a list of some of the main ones that are going to be in short supply this year. Turkeys and chickens are the main one that they expect to be as much as 50% under supply this Christmas time. Beef is another one. I mean, why is the beef industry having so many issues? Lamb, why is the lamb industry having so many issues? Ham, gammon and other pork products, which of course for the British favourite, pigs in blankets, this year don't expect to be able to get your pigs in blankets. I'll put an image on the screen of what that is for people that don't know what they are. Seasonal vegetables, again I covered that recently on a video, and how this year, especially in the UK, a lot of the produce was left to rot at the farms. They were turned back over. There's a whole host of things going on there, which is why the UK has been importing all of their produce from the EU at the moment. And then lastly, cranberries. One of my favorites as well. I always like a little bit of cranberry sauce and some cranberries at Christmas time. Don't expect to be able to get that this year. If you're getting value from my video so far, would you do me a quick favor? Please click the like button. Why not subscribe if you haven't already, and leave me a comment. I do like to read your comments. But it's not just food that's going to be having issues this year. Oh no, we have a whole host of other things too. What about Christmas trees? So real Christmas trees, not the artificial ones. A lack of HGV drivers coupled with Brexit. If I don't hear the word Brexit for another 10 years, I'll be a happy man. And the worldwide pandemic is seeing retailers struggle to fulfill the demand for real Christmas trees over the festive period. One retailer, Balsam Hill, has already seen sales of artificial Christmas trees up by 73% in August. So this is the summertime compared to last year. Visitors to their website have increased 145% as well, with searches for Christmas trees absolutely exploding. Trees and decorations are being snapped up every week that supply comes in. So right now, you know, it depends where you are and the stores and how big the cities are. But I've been to a couple of stores and they have no Christmas decorations. They have nothing for Christmas. It's just a few basic things that usually the rubbish stuff that I don't want to buy anyway. In the US then, the Christmas tree shortage is also causing problems, and that this could affect this year's selection and prices. Vendors in the Midwest, I'm surprised by this, are looking for new sources to get their trees. Many have gone all the way to Canada to source trees. That makes no sense. The Midwest, why are Christmas trees not being grown in the Midwest? And do you really have to go to Canada? I mean, that just seems absurd to me. But even with those vendors getting trees from new places like Canada, buyers must expect to see lower inventory than previous years this year. With the shortages and the cost of transporting the trees as well from Canada and likewise, you're expected to pay about 30% more for your real Christmas tree this year. And even for the artificial ones, many of which are coming from China, expect to see huge inflated prices on those as well this year. Okay, on to the kids' favorite then, and the big kids' favorite, toys, gifts and clothing shortages. Toy shops around the globe have already issued an alarming plea to parents this year. And it says this: if you know what your child wants for Christmas and you want to avoid the most frantic scramble for presents in decades, buy it now and hide it in the closet. Seasoned figures in the toy industry have stated that consumers will face higher prices and greater scarcity on the shelves this Christmas because of a perfect storm of economic pressures that have disrupted their plans. Despite their best efforts, they warned it was already too late to resolve the bottlenecks in time for this Christmas. There will be stock, but it's not one of those years where you can just leave it until the last minute and expect to just rush out and buy those gifts, unless you want to pay 10 times the markup on sites like eBay, where people will be buying these gifts early and then reselling them. So if you don't know, in the toy industry, normally what they do is they put out toys as a sort of sample in June, July time, and they see where the demand is, what are most popular, and that gives them an idea of what to order in October and November time, because they know they'll get it in quickly, they'll get it in time for Christmas period. But this year they're not able to do that, and even if they could, it would be potentially 6 months or more until that supply even came in. So there's a couple of examples here. So in the US, United States, more than 1 million Rainbow High dolls are primed for the holidays, but first they need to make it out of China. And right now they think that there's absolutely no way that they are going to get from China to the USA unless they are flown in, but then those costs need to be passed on to the consumers. I'm afraid there is simply not enough time to get products on the shelves this year, said the chief executive of MGA Entertainment. This is the toy giant behind Rainbow High and such popular lines as LOL, Surprise and Little Tykes. The holidays are going to be very tough, and frankly, a lot of families are not going to be able to get the toys they want this year. Two of the largest retailers then for this year, Walmart and Home Depot, they're actually chartering their own ships, so their own supply ships, to bring the freight. I mean, this is crazy to me, but they're actually doing it. They've chartered their own ships to move the freight from China to the United States. And Amazon is beefing up its cargo planes, so they are taking on more planes in order to move their cargo that way. The clothing brand Urban Outfitters as well are switching things up, so they are also bringing in air freight. But now, of course, there's an issue with air freight, because you remember, this is all supply and demand. Now so many retailers are switching to air freight. The air freight costs are going up, so you just can't win either way here. And this was a new one for me that I found out today. Other brands as well are having issues. Book publishers, okay, so book publishers dogged by paper shortages. I didn't even know there were paper shortages until I just found out about this. So what they have decided to do is, rather than get out their releases this year for Christmas, they're pushing those releases now into next year. Now, how that's going to work from a business case, I have no idea. I would have thought they sell the most books in a year at Christmas times, but hey, what do I know? A number of clothing brands and retail stores as well, they're reacting in different ways. Walmart, Williams-Sonoma saying that they have very little stock compared to last year. Apparel chain Anthropology is running low on dresses and jeans. Many retailers are simply just whittling down their offerings this year. So in previous years where you have a lot of choice, this year you're not going to see that level of choice. You won't even notice for a lot of people, I think, unless, I'll tell you what it is, it's when they put on the website, out of stock, out of stock, out of stock. That's when it really bothers you. But if you don't see they're out of stock with a lot of things and you just see what the offering is, it's usually not as bad. I think a lot of it is psychological. MGA Entertainment, again, we just mentioned, as well as Mattel, which is the toy giant behind Barbie and Hot Wheels, etc., is raising prices in coming months, and retailers as varied as Abercrombie and Fitch and Best Buy are easing down on promotions. So they're not doing many promotions at all this year. Others may start adding delivery surcharges, especially for bulky items like furniture and exercise equipment that cost a lot more to transport, and these costs are going to be passed on to consumers. So which gift items then are going to be in short supply this year? Well, I've gone out and I've done a bit of research, and we have LOL surprise dolls, Paw Patrol vehicles, Little Tikes toys. I'm laughing because I have no idea what any of this is. Peppa Pig, Harry Potter, Star Wars, and other popular licensed brands. I know what those are. Fidget popper stress relievers, general consumer gift items. Games consoles this year are going to be even less in supply, not just because of everything we've talked about, but also the semiconductor chip shortage as well. Same with computers, laptops, tablets, household electronics. Again, all use microchips. The one that was weird for me was garden furniture. I don't know who's buying garden furniture at Christmas time, but okay, maybe I'm just thinking from my own perspective. It's freezing and snowing at winter, so I don't know why I'd be buying garden furniture. Maybe it's for the people in California and some of the hot places. Maybe that's what it is. So finally then we have the worker shortages. Again, I've done a very detailed video on this. 2 of them, in fact. I would recommend highly watching those videos. You'll get a lot of value from those videos. And the UK has a huge issue, just enormous issue right now with worker shortages. 100,000 shortfall in HGV, so that's heavy goods vehicle truck drivers. 100,000, because most of them have gone back home to Eastern Europe and they can't get back into the UK because they don't want to do the 10-day quarantines and, quarantine hotels and quarantine at home and all this sort of business, and very expensive process for a job that isn't extremely highly paid, although wages have gone up 40% just in the last few months. So if you're looking for a job to get into and get training in, it could be the HGV industry. But it's not just a crisis there. The crisis extends right across all of the sort of industries that bring in EU workers. And many of the watchdogs that actually track all of this stuff have said that around Christmas time, we are going to have a huge crisis. I love to use this word crisis, but they are using this word for one of the first times I've ever seen, saying that it's going to be catastrophic and crisis this Christmas time unless these EU workers are allowed back in. But of course, this is being blocked, and you probably saw my stream the other day where they are prioritizing, get this, ballet dancers. Okay, nothing against if you're a ballet dancer, but they're prioritizing ballet dancers and jobs like this, very artistic, creative jobs. But they're not prioritizing things like agriculture and butchers and drivers and things. It is absolute madness. I don't know what is going on with our politicians at the moment. It's as if they have just lost all common sense, and they are, I have no idea. I don't know what's going on. If you know what's going on, drop it in the comments, because it makes no sense whatsoever. The number of Romanian and Bulgarian workers in the UK, which is a heavy amount of the workers, who would typically fill lower paid logistics and food production roles, has plunged by almost 90,000 or 24% since the end of 2019. Meanwhile, employees from 8 Eastern European countries, including Poland and the Czech Republic, have fallen by more than 100,000 or 12%. These numbers are huge. These people are the backbone of workers in our society. And actually, just the other day when I was filming in the supermarket, some people came over and had a chat. Actually, there was a few people that recognized me that night, which was really random. But a couple came over and had a chat with me. They were from Bulgaria. They're probably watching this video right now. They said they watch all my videos. And we just had a little chat about this conversation. And they said a lot of their friends from Bulgaria had actually gone home as well. So this all amounts to a huge crisis that is brewing. and it doesn't seem to be being taken care of. Of course, the United States is facing their own crisis in workers and wages and labor shortages. Just recently, Walmart announced a $1 increase to their wage, $1. Not great, but I guess it's better than nothing. But why did they do this? Was it out of the goodness of their heart? No, of course not. They did it because they're trying to compete with Target and all these other stores who are raising wages to try and incentivize people to come from Walmart, etc., over to their stores. So one of the things that the retailers like that do is around the Christmas period, they actually take on temps. So these are temporary workers, and it's not just in the US, it's in most countries around the world. But this year they just can't seem to get these temp workers because there's so much other opportunity out there. But at the same time, 18 months of stimulus and benefits have just put people off. Why work when we can get all these benefits and stimulus? Why go and do a minimum wage job when you don't really need to? But of course, these benefits have all ended just over the last week. So let's just see then what actually happens as we go forward. So let's look finally then at my recommendations for how you can have the best Christmas possible this year. The average American spends $1,000 on Christmas. The average Brit spends about £1,100, so that's more than $1,500 on Christmas. I think it's pretty obvious with all these increased costs as well as inflation, supply chain breakdowns, worker shortages, etc., we are going to see massively increase costs this year. And of course, why all of these big companies are saying, oh, we care about you, we're going to be absorbing all the costs. Don't believe a word of it. That is just propaganda and PR to make them look good over there, because they're always looking for an angle to look better than their competitors. Oh, we'll absorb all the costs. Yeah, of course you will. Just wait until you get right near Christmas. Guarantee you those costs are going to go through the roof. And it won't just be Christmas, they're going to continue this on as well into next year. This inflation is not going away. Although I do believe there is some aspect of it that is transitory. It's not going to be transitory for at least a year and a half, if not 2 years yet. And then we'll probably see some transitory inflation. But they're just constantly putting out all of these lies about, oh yeah, a few months, transitory inflation for a few months. There's no possible way. All the quantitative easing that was done is not even going to get through the economy for another year yet. So you've got at least a year of this. So here are my 2 points to make sure that you have the best Christmas you possibly can. Don't just wait until the last minute. It's typical for guys like me. Guys tend to wait until the last minute. Ladies tend to prepare a lot earlier. Regardless, don't leave it until the last minute. Get prepared. Start preparing this week. Make a list of the things you want to buy, whether that's food and gifts, etc. Do that ASAP. So go to the store and get all of your Thanksgiving and Christmas foods now, and then just pop it in the freezer. If you've got a big chest freezer as well, or if you don't, maybe if you can find one, get yourself a chest freezer. I would do that anyway. I'd recommend it anyway for all the food shortages that might come in the future. And just look out as well, when you're in the grocery store and you're seeing sale items on food and things like that, buy those sale item foods. I do that, my wife does that. We do that all the time. If we're going to buy something that's going to go in the freezer anyway, and something's marked down 70% and it's on sale, because it's only got 2 days left before it's out of date or whatever, we regularly buy that stuff, throw it in the freezer, because what you're going to do, you're going to take the chicken out and you're going to cook it in the oven anyway. It's not like you're going to leave it in your fridge for a week. So start looking for all of these sale item foods now and then get them in the freezer. And if you're thinking, yeah, but Neil, I'm getting to the supermarket and there's no food whenever I get there, my advice around that would be, especially go to the 24-hour supermarkets. And a little tip for you here is that they get stocked up during the night. So the early hours of the night, between sort of 10 p.m., 11 p.m., right through to the early hours of the morning. This is when they restock most of the items. So get there, as let's just say as early as possible in the morning. If you can go an hour or two before work, for example, go and get your produce, get it home, pop it in the freezer, whatever. This is when you're going to stand the best chance of actually getting it. If it were me personally, I would think nothing of getting up at 5 a.m. one morning and driving to the supermarket knowing they've just restocked just so I could do it. I'd rather do that than go without later on. So when it comes to point number 2, by the way, is gifts and things around that, so gifts and toys, I would actually pre-order all of those gifts and toys now, get well ahead of the game. And if you're, one of the stores that you're going to says, sorry, we don't pre-order, well, email them, call them, go in, do whatever you need to do. Find out when those toys or those gifts are going to be coming in. What day, specifically, what day, what time are they going to be coming in? When will they be on the shelves? Go there and then and buy those items there and then. So I believe if you do all of these steps I've just talked about, I think you can have an amazing Christmas this year still, barring any more lockdowns or travel restrictions or whatever else. Look, I have no idea what's going to come in the future. I'm just taking it day by day, just like you, when it comes to all the COVID measures, because I can track and forecast the economy and finance and things like that. But when it comes to these politicians, a lot of the time I have no idea. They seem to be making it up as they go along, as you know. So other than that, thank you so much for watching today. Please click the like button, subscribe, leave me a comment, let me know what you thought of the video. Why not share this video with your friends and family so they can be prepared as well. But apart from that, I hope you have a blessed week and that you are gearing up for this Christmas period with your family. I hope you have an amazing time. Take care.